It's late. The conversation just ended. Not with a fight, not with a door slamming, but with you going silent. Something was said, maybe the other person doesn't even know it landed the way it did, but something shifted and the words just stopped coming, and now you're lying there, completely quiet on the outside, completely deafening on the inside. People call it shutting down, being cold, and for a long time, maybe you believed that too. But psychology tells a completely different story. There are 6 rare psychological traits that define people who go silent when they're in pain. And if you recognize yourself in even 2 or 3 of them, what you're about to hear will change the way you see yourself forever. Trait 1. Your silence is a protection response, not a punishment. Psychologists call this defensive inhibition, and it is one of the most misunderstood coping mechanisms in human psychology. When you go quiet after being hurt, your nervous system isn't choosing cruelty, it's choosing survival. Somewhere in your history, expressing pain out loud led to one of several outcomes. It was dismissed, used against you, met with anger, or simply ignored. And your brain, which is extraordinarily good at pattern recognition, drew a conclusion. Speaking when you're hurting is dangerous, so it stopped. Not consciously, not as a strategy, as a reflex. The same way you pull your hand back from a flame before your brain has even registered heat. You go silent before you've consciously decided to. The shutdown happens first. The awareness comes later. This is why you often can't explain why you've gone quiet, even when someone is standing right in front of you asking. It isn't because you don't want to talk. It's because the part of your brain responsible for verbal expression has temporarily handed control to the part responsible for keeping you safe. You're not being difficult. You're being protected by a system that learned its job a long time ago and hasn't been told it can stand down. And the next trait explains exactly where that system was trained. Trait 2. You learned early that your pain was an inconvenience to other people. This is called emotional parentification, and it doesn't require dramatic trauma to leave a lasting mark. It can be as quiet as a parent who changed the subject when you cried. A household where everyone was too overwhelmed with their own pain to have space for yours. A childhood where expressing hurt was met with "you're too sensitive," or "stop making everything about you," or simply a silence that felt worse than anything you could have said. When a child grows up in an environment where their emotional experience is consistently treated as inconvenient, they learn to manage that experience internally. They stop bringing it outward. They develop what researchers call affect suppression, the habit of feeling deeply and expressing minimally. The child learns to be fine, to look fine, to say they're fine, and then they grow up and find themselves in relationships where someone who genuinely loves them is asking what's wrong, and the honest answer is somewhere behind a wall so thick it was never meant to be crossed, only maintained. You didn't build that wall to keep people out. You built it because no one ever came in. Trait 3. Words feel like weapons when you're in pain, so you disarm yourself first. This is one of the most precise and painful dynamics that psychologists observe in people with high emotional intelligence and a history of relational hurt. When you're in pain, you don't just feel the hurt, you feel the full weight of what you could say. The exact words that would land hardest, the precise sentence that would cause the most damage. And because you know, with terrible accuracy, how much words can wound, you choose not to use them. Not because you have nothing to say, because you have too much. Psychologists describe this as hypermentalization, an overactive awareness of the impact your words will have on the people around you. People with this trait don't go quiet because they're passive. They go quiet because they're acutely conscious of the destruction they're capable of when they're hurt and unguarded. The silence isn't emptiness, it's restraint. It's you choosing not to do something you can't take back. The cruel irony is that this self-restraint, this act of care for the other person, is almost always interpreted as coldness, as indifference, as proof that you don't care, when in reality it's evidence of exactly the opposite. If any of this is landing, take a second and subscribe. There are people finding this channel right now who have spent years being misread in exactly this way. Help them find it. Trait 4. You need to process pain privately before you can share it honestly. Psychologists call this internal emotional processing, and it's a fundamental cognitive style, not a flaw or a failure to communicate. Some people process emotions externally. They talk through what they're feeling in real time. The conversation is the processing. They think out loud, feel out loud, and arrive at understanding through expression. You don't work that way. For you, speaking before processing doesn't produce clarity, it produces noise. When you try to articulate pain before you've had time to sit with it, what comes out is confused, inaccurate, or overwhelming. You say the wrong thing. You hurt someone, you say more than you meant to, or you say less than you feel, and they think it wasn't serious. So, you've learned, consciously or not, to wait, to go inside first, to feel your way through the full shape of what happened before you try to put any of it into words. This takes time. And the people who love you often experience that time as abandonment. They're pushing for a conversation you're not ready to have. You're trying to give them something true instead of something reactive. Both of you are trying to connect. Both of you are doing it in a language the other one doesn't fully understand. You're not avoiding the conversation. You're trying to have it properly, just on a timeline that exists entirely inside your own head. Trait 5. The silence is where you grieve what you hoped the relationship could be. This is the trait that almost no one talks about, and yet for many people who go quiet when they're hurt, it's the one that lives closest to the center of what's actually happening. When something painful occurs in a relationship, a dismissal, a careless word, a moment of feeling unseen, part of what you're processing isn't just the hurt itself. It's the gap between what happened and what you needed to happen, between who the person was in that moment and who you hoped they could be, between the relationship as it is and the version of it that lives in your head, the one where you finally feel safe enough to be fully known. Psychologists call this anticipatory grief, mourning not a loss that has happened, but a version of something you needed that keeps not arriving. The silence is where you hold that grief. It's private not because you want to hide it, but because it's too tender to survive contact with someone who might not understand why it exists. You've been here before. You know what it feels like to explain this kind of hurt and have someone look at you like you're speaking a language they've never heard? And so you stay inside it longer, not because you're giving up, but because you're protecting the one part of yourself that still believes things could be different. Trait 6. You don't trust that speaking your pain will make things better, because it hasn't always. This is called learned communicative helplessness, and it develops through repetition, not weakness. At some point, you tried to say what you were feeling, maybe more than once, maybe many times, and what came back wasn't understanding. It was defensiveness, or minimization, or an argument about whether you had the right to feel the way you did. Or worse, nothing, silence meeting silence, and the distance between you growing anyway. You learn something from that, not consciously. The way you learn anything that happens to you enough times, it becomes a belief before it becomes a thought. The belief is this: saying what hurts doesn't close the distance. It just gives the hurt more surface area, and so you stop. Not because you've given up on connection, because you've been waiting maybe for years, for someone who responds to your pain in a way that makes the risk feel worth it. That person exists. That kind of conversation is possible. But your nervous system, the one that learned its lessons early and learned them well, needs more than words to believe it. It needs proof, it needs time, and it needs someone patient enough to sit with your silence without deciding it means you don't care. Here's what no one ever told you. The silence was never the problem. It was always the solution, the best one you had available at the time. The shutdown, the walls, the words you held back when you were in pain. These aren't signs of someone emotionally unavailable or cold or incapable of intimacy. They are signs of someone who felt too much, too early, in places that weren't safe enough to hold it. You didn't go quiet because you stopped caring. You went quiet because caring, out loud in the wrong places, cost you something you couldn't afford to keep losing. You were never broken. You were built differently. And the silence that protected you all those years is the same depth that makes you capable of a connection most people will never know. Which trait hit closest to home? Drop a number in the comments. I read every single one.